Welcome again to Cottage Talk today. I am Russ Goldman. This is my daily show, which I'll going to continue to do for the month of January. After this episode is over, I will be deleting the live feeds, which are on Facebook, YouTube, and on X. So if you want to listen to the entire episode, please do go to the Cottage Talk Patreon page. Love to have you become a paid member of the Patreon page. That would be fantastic. Okay. So, as I'm doing all these shows each and every day, I'm thinking I have to change things up, make things as interesting as possible. So, I am continuing to do that. So, I'm going to be doing these shows that I'm going to be breaking down into tiers. So I have 4 tiers that I am doing today. Each team is going to be in a tier in the Premier League. There are 20 teams. We're going to break them down. So where does Shahid Khan fall into a tier? You're going to find out in this show. And I look forward to doing this. I think I'm also going to do this with Marco Silva. I think I might do it for, say, players too, but I just find it interesting to do different types of shows. I got this idea from a local radio show here in Boston that breaks the teams or subject matter into tiers. We have 4 tiers. They are tier 4, the worst of the worst owners, in my opinion. Tier 3, mediocre owners, just mediocre owners. Tier 2 is good owners, and then tier 1 is best of the best. So where does Shad Khan fall? Well, you'll have to listen to this entire episode to find out, because that will be the end. So, but before we go into my tiers, I just want to mention my history with Shahid Khan and where I fall in all this to lead up to where I put Shahid Khan in the tiers. Now, anyone that has listened to the show for a long period of time knows a couple things. Number one, Shahid Khan was on this show in 2013. He was, and gave me a very good interview. And then I believe, I want to say a year later, I actually met him in person in Jacksonville. Had a great conversation with him, really nice conversation with him. Very thankful for Jim Woodcock setting up this meeting that I had with Shahid Khan back then. It was great. And I actually made a suggestion to Shahid Khan during our meeting. I think I had about 15 minutes with him. This is at a point where they were discussing, different things they were still new owners. And I suggested, you know what, you should reach out to former players and get their feedback. And I mentioned Danny Murphy. Well, a few months later, they came together with a committee to find the next manager of Fulham Football Club, which ended up being Kit Simons, and Danny Murphy was a part of that group. Not saying he did it because of me, but I actually threw it out there. So I had a very good meeting with Shahid Khan. Just want to mention that. But that was a long time ago. That was in 2014. So over the years, Fulham have their yo-yo situation. And I've been praiseworthy at times and critical at other times. And a few seasons ago, I got so frustrated with the Khans, the way that they were handling things. Basically, it involved the situation with Paulinho and the situation with Mitro and how they handled that I basically said, it's time for the Khans to sell Fulham Football Club. I said it. That was 2 seasons ago. I was very vocal about that, and I'm not going to take that back. I said that. My stance on that has changed a great deal. And that really is credit to everything that the Khans have done. There are things that I haven't liked, but for the most part, there are many things that I do like, and I will be sharing that when I talk about the ownership of Fulham and where Shahid Khan falls in my tiers. but I just wanted to give you the backdrop of where I come from. I did say 2 seasons ago that I wanted the Cons to sell. I no longer feel that way based on everything that has happened since then and also the past as well. So, but what tier do they fall in? Well, you're going to have to listen to the entire episode to find out. So there are some bad owners out there. There really are. And it might surprise you some of the tiers that these clubs fall into. But I gave this some thought. And not that I'm really into each and every team, but it's just my opinion. And some of them might surprise you. Let's start with tier 4, and I'll go through them individually. Wolves definitely isn't the worst of the worst because they've sold so many of their top players, really didn't replenish them well enough, and it finally caught up to them. So when you sell all your best players, eventually it's going to backfire on you, and that's kind of where Wolves are right now. So their ownership deserves to be in tier 4, the worst of the worst. West Ham owners absolutely deserve to be there. There's no question about that. What's going on there is terrible. This is a dumpster fire. Again, it was all leading in this direction for West Ham. You sack a manager a couple of years ago that wins you silverware, and you get what you deserve. And that was David Moyes. David Moyes is a quality manager. So West Ham deserved to be in tier 4, the worst of the worst. Nottingham Forest deserved to be there as well. Look at what's going on there. Yes, they bought all these players, but the way that the situation was handled with Nuno, I think, was just terrible. But I guess I understand it on some level because you shouldn't, well, I shouldn't say you shouldn't, but when you speak out against an ownership group of how you handle things, you might get sacked. And that actually is what happened with the situation regards to Nuno. Not a fan of this ownership group at all. I don't think that they're doing a very good job. Obviously, got all the way last season, looked good, but now look where they are right now. So they don't have a clue on how to manage that team. And they're going to struggle the rest of the season. So that's why they are in this tier 4 category. Chelsea deserve to be there as well. I know how much money they have, but I find Bowley and his group Blue Coat terrible owners because I think that they're in this for the wrong reasons. They're in it to make money. Now, obviously, it's a business. You want to make money. But I think eventually they are buying all these young players to flip them and basically bring up the value of Chelsea to sell one day. So I don't think that they have Chelsea's best interest at heart. I think they're terrible owners. I would never want them as owners of Fulham Football Club. They're the worst of the worst. They're just terrible owners. Nothing's going to change my mind on that. That's why they are in tier 4. Tottenham Hotspur, same exact way. Daniel Levy's now gone, and their ownership is a dumpster fire. This place is a dumpster fire. In my opinion, this is the worst. Any manager that decides to become manager of Tottenham Hotspur needs their head examined. Their supporters are delusional, but their ownership is as well. They don't know what the heck that they're doing. They've go through more managers over the years than I can think of. And they're probably going to do the exact same. They're just going to continue the pattern. This is a poorly run club, probably the worst in the Premier League. In fact, I'm going to say it. That's why Tottenham Hotspur are in tier 4. Manchester United, again, the Glazers and the thing with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, just a terrible ownership group. I understand losing Sir Alex Ferguson changes a lot, but they haven't figured it out since then. They've gone through so many managers. When you go through as many managers as the last 2 clubs I mentioned, you reap what you sow, okay? Terrible owners deserve to be in tier 4. That's exactly where they are. So now let's go to tier 3. And I'm calling this mediocre. Not really good, little bit below average. Leeds United, I was tempted to put them in tier 4, but I'm going to put them in tier 3 because I think that they're a little bit of a yo-yo at this point. So they're going to go in tier 3, but they could very easily go into tier 4. We'll see what happens with Leeds United, but they're a little bit better than the worst of the worst. Same thing with Burnley, similar situation. When you're an ownership group and you hire Scott Parker, you get what you deserve. You're just going to be mediocre. Like I said, I could have put them in tier 4, but at least they are probably going to go up and down. Everton could get out of tier 3, but right now I'm going to put them in the mediocre category based on the last few years, new ownership. So they need time. So I'm not going to put them in the good category. I'm going to put them in the mediocre category with the opportunity to get into the good category on their way up. But right now I'm putting them in tier 3. Sunderland, been to hell and back, that club, on their way up. I'm not going to put them in the good category because they could very easily slip back next season. So on the way up, but still, even though where they are in the league, I see them as tier 3. That's where Sunderland belong. Here's an interesting one that might surprise people. Liverpool deserve to be here because I find them mediocre. I know this ownership group very well. Fenway Sports Group, I'm wearing a shirt. Boston Red Sox, same ownership group. What's interesting with them is that, in general, very analytical in the way that they run things. Liverpool's a little bit different. They do that with the Red Sox. Liverpool's a little bit different. I think right now, the interesting situation with Liverpool has to be how they reacted from winning the title, backing Slot, but I think that they are more worried about, this is a weird one because they're so worried about the Liverpool supporter and wanting basically an elite player at every position that now they don't really have a cohesive team. That's the issue I have with Liverpool. And I think that the owners basically listened too much to the detractors and basically said, we're going to buy everything in sight. That's what we're going to do. And when you listen to the fans, you actually become one instead of being an owner. And I think that they went a little bit crazy on their spending spree and listened too much to the Liverpool supporter. So that's why I see them as being mediocre owners. I've always thought of them that way. They're not great owners. They're mediocre owners. Newcastle United deserve to be there too because, one, I do not like who owns them. Let's just leave it at that. But basically spent like crazy. Now they're reaping what they sow. They have to be very careful what they do. So they kind of get back in the mix, but they're not really what I would consider good owners. Certainly not the best of the best. They're mediocre because I think they're going to go up and down, up and down. And that is mediocre. Newcastle United deserve to be in tier 3. So now I'm going to go to tier 2. And here's some good ones. I want to put Bournemouth in there. I know that they're struggling right now, but I think their ownership group has kind of figured things out. And hopefully, like I said, they will rebound next season, but they keep selling players. And I think that they are run fairly well. They deserve to be in tier 2. Crystal Palace as well, up and down, but I think they have figured things out. But again, selling their best players. So that's why I cannot put them in tier 1. I think there's too much emphasis on this. But I think that they are good owners, and Crystal Palace, I think, are here for a long period of time. This one hurts me to do it, but I'm putting Brentford in tier 2 because they're analytical base. They sell all their best players and they bring them in, but somehow they figure things out. Somehow they are currently 5th. So I have to give credit where credit is due. Brentford is in tier 2. And I'm also going to put Manchester City in there. Now, you might be listening to this and thinking, why isn't Manchester City in tier one. I'm putting them in tier two because of the scandal that they're still dealing with, the history of how they built everything. Because, listen, they found a way, they found all these loopholes, they've spent all this money, and they've done a very good job doing it. But let's be honest, they kind of cheated. So, because of that, and listen, I'm one that is a fan of the New England Patriots, so I kind of understand Manchester City to some level. I do. But I think that they are a good ownership group, but I'm not going to put them in the best of best because of how they built Manchester City. So they're in the good category because overall, you win that many titles. I have to put you in the good category. So that's going to lead to the best of the best. And I only have 3 names in there. And then I will go to where I'm going to put Shahid Khan. So the best of the best, and this first one kills me because I'm not a fan of Aston Villa, but they deserve so much credit for what they've done since losing to Fulham in the championship final that I was at, the playoff final. Rebounded, hired a fantastic manager, learned from not having the right managers and finding the right one and backing him. Yes, they've had to sell some players, and that's hurt to balance the books. But overall, if you have the right manager and you have a strong ownership group and you bring in the right players, you are a very well-run club. Aston Villa deserve to be in the best of the best. Arsenal do as well. I'm putting them there. They finally found their right manager, and they've backed him. Hasn't always worked well, but Arsenal deserve to be in tier one. And that's going to lead to the final team I'm putting in tier one before I tell you where I'm putting Shahid Khan in. That would be Brighton Hove Albion. Everyone loves Brighton Hove Albion. I understand it. Very well-run team. I don't always agree with how they run it because they basically find, I would call them hidden gems, and then they sell them on, and it works for them. And they are very analytic-based. It all works. So Brighton are a very well-run club. The ownership group, very well. They've done a great job. They deserve all the credit that they get. So for me, they are in the best of best. They are tier one. So let's end with, well, where do you think I'm going to put Shahid Khan? It's an interesting one. Like I said, 2 seasons ago, I was on this show saying I want the Khans to sell. I want local ownership. And it had a lot to do with the Mitro and Polina thing. But it also had to do with the fact that I don't think over the years that Fulham were first. I don't even think that they're first now when it comes to what Shahid Khan owns. Obviously, the Jaguars, you got Tony with AEW and all that. So I've been very critical, and I think it was well-deserved. It's my opinion. But since then, have to give them a lot of credit. I really do. There are things I still don't like, how they spend their money, how they wait so late in the window to try to find the proper deal. But it has worked. It has worked. Built a beautiful stand. I don't like all the pricing, but like I said, the pricing has been very high on the Riverside stand. I don't like the fact that they know that they can get the prices that they're getting because of where Craven Cottage is situated in London. So they price it that way. Don't like it. I don't like it at all. But it's also a business and is trying to feed money back into Fulham. I think I understand what they're trying to do with the revenue coming from the Riverside stand. I think over the years, it will go right back into the club. I think it's going to help Fulham prosper over the course of the history of the club. So in the end, I think they're going to get there. I just don't like some of the elements of it. Like I said, the pricing I do not like, but I knew it was coming. But overall, I think what they have built has been impressive. Okay. Since 2013, they've learned from a lot of their mistakes, was a yo-yo club, and Fulham are now in really good shape in the Premier League. Did they flirt earlier in the season with relegation? Yep. Do they have a situation with Marco Silva? Possibly could leave at the end of the season? Yes. But overall, right now, since the beginning that they took over to where they are right now, with the clubs that I mentioned, the tier that Shahid Khan deserves to be in is tier 1. He deserves to be thought of as the best of the best in the Premier League as owners. Not perfect. No ownership group is perfect. But Fulham deserved to be, I'm talking about Shahid Khan, with Aston Villa, with Arsenal, with Brighton, as the best owners in the Premier League, in my opinion. And that's coming a long way from me, who has been very critical of them even 2 years ago. And I'll continue to when they deserve it. And I will do that on this show. But I will give Shahid Khan his due. And I will tell you one thing. When I met him in person, that was many years ago, genuine man. I think I'm a good judge of character. This is a good man and a man that cares about Fulham Football Club. Everyone will talk about his son, Tony, who's also been on the show. I will say this, in my opinion, Tony does care about the club. But I will also tell you, I don't think his involvement in the club is really much at this point. I think right now he has a title, and this is just my opinion, and that's about it. I think others within the club are really making the true decisions. Alistair McIntosh, CEO, and obviously you have others that deal in the football operations of Fulham Football Club. But right now, my focus more is on the chairman, the owner, Shahid Khan, and he, I think, has been a very good owner for Fulham Football Club, and Fulham are lucky to have him. If someday they decide to sell, I hope that they would sell to local owners who, would want to have Fulham prosper. But as long as they are owners of Fulham Football Club, it could be for a very long period of time. I just have to call it the way I see it. Shahid Khan has been the best of the best in the Premier League when it comes to ownership. And that's how I'm going to end this episode of Cottage Talk today. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm going to be doing other shows like this. I am doing a show each and every day in the month of January, so I'm trying to find some interesting ways to do podcasts. And I thought this one would be interesting. And I got this from a show called Felger and Maz in Boston, and not one that I'm a huge fan of, but a segment that they have is called Maz's Tiers, and they go through tiers of different types of topics. So I got the idea from Felger and Maz, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Okay, well, that's going to do it for this episode. My name's Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.